What's the chance, do you think, of us seeing anything tonight?
A one-off television special, which by the end the presenters looked like they were incredibly relieved that it wasn't them footing the bill for dry cleaning. It just appeared on screens and scared a fair few viewers who weren't in on the gag. It might have had the working title, Ghosts, Bollocks or Not.
We hope to show you, for the first time, irrefutable proof that ghosts really do exist.
But probably didn't, so instead they went with Ghostwatch.
They're seeing it now, for God's sake. Don't close the lines. We need to know what's happening out there.
You're the expert. What is happening out there?
British television companies loved shows about watching things, especially if they could stick the word watch in the title. There was Badger Watch, Hospital Watch, Doom Watch, Crime Watch, Time Watch, Spring Watch, and so on. So how about, I don't know, Ghost Watch? Aside from Doom Watch, which was an early 70s science fiction drama, the rest were documentary or reality programs. So broadcasting a 90-minute program called Ghostwatch, which purported to be an actual live presentation from a haunted house, seemed like an ordinary program.
Dark eyes, or some are just saying holes for eyes, and wearing a black robe or a dress which is buttoned up to the neck.
At the very, very start, there's a blink or you'll miss it title card complete with the writer's credit. But if you started watching, say, 15 seconds after the beginning of the program, you're hit with a show that attempted to be realistic, headed by respected broadcaster Michael Parkinson, backed up by familiar to UK audiences at the time presenters Sarah Greene and Mike Smith, and also Craig Charles as a cheeky high-energy live cross presenter, and all appearing as themselves.
But there are some days, and certainly nights, where Mrs. Early and her two daughters would rather be out on the street than right here within their own four walls.
Shown on BBC One on Halloween night in 1992, Ghostwatch on the surface looked legit, like the paintwork on my 2002 Toyota Camry, until I began parking overnight under the fruit tree.
This really was disgusting. We found excrement.
A house in Fox Hill Drive in North London has been the site of some strange goings-on. A mother, Pamela Early, and her two daughters, Suzanne and Kim, have been visited by a manifestation that bangs on the pipes. The kids have nicknamed the manifestation Mr. Pipes. Presenter Sarah Greene is going to spend a night in the haunted house, while her hubby, Mike Smith, reads out phone messages from viewers. Michael Parkinson seems somewhat bemused at having to appear unbiased when you can tell he thinks it's all bollocks, which may or may not have been backed up by his newspaper interview that day talking about the program.
Oh dear God, Susan.
Parkinson's in the studio with Dr. Lynn Pascoe, a psychologist looking to the spooky natural. Throughout the first hour, we quickly cut between Parky and Dr. Pascoe, viewers' phone calls, the Fox Hill Drive house, and occasionally to the curiously high-energy comedy presenter outside the house. Anytime something interesting is about to happen, we cut to something not quite as interesting, and so on. A viewer says they saw a shape in the girl's room. In Dr. Pascoe's research videos, the oldest daughter Suzanne has been talking in a strange voice. Scratches appear on her face, and then it looks like she may have been faking all along. An entrance to the basement is constantly referred to as
the glory hole, as we used to call it when I was a kid.
Stop tittering, this is serious.
Just don't want to know, really.
The apparition is either a man or a woman, but transpires there was a woman who murdered kids in the area long ago as part of a local legend. But more recently, a pedophile also lived there and killed himself. There are sounds of a cat orgy coming from the behind the door to the basement.
Have we lost the link completely?
A cameraman is injured in the ghost house. The power goes out. An infrared camera in the house is the only clue as to what is going on. So the kids weren't faking. There is something there. But having televised the proceedings, Dr. Pascoe has a new theory.
What service do we have tonight?
I don't understand.
Jesus, Michael, we've created a seance. A massive seance.
A wind whips up in the studio, and gremlins see things blowing up. The show ends with Parky looking a bit peaky, with just one studio camera working. Roll credits. Yes, it was all bullshit, presented as reality, like Auntie Beryl's expert testimony to the Warren Commission. It was entertaining bullshit. But a lot of viewers thought it was real, so mission accomplished. And then the complaints rolled in, joined in by some of Britain's newspapers, who had long felt that they had the monopoly on bullshit, despite the disclaimer on the bottom of page 8, along with all the legally ordered retractions.
Sarah?
Ghostwatch was never rescreened by the BBC, but became a cult hit among horror fans. Yes, it's a horror movie, basically a found footage movie 7 years before the Blair Witch Project. So we don't normally delve too deeply into horror stuff. There are far better channels covering the genre. But this one was just too interesting, considering it looks just like normal prosaic British television of the day. A serious presenter, playful banter between presenters, the strangely somewhat hyperactive comedy presenter trying to keep things light by being incredibly annoying.
It's impossible to fake that. How do you fake that?
I don't know if it at all.
Writer Stephen Volk had pitched a 6-part horror drama to the BBC, but they weren't biting. However, the opportunity arose for a 90-minute production. The writer then thought out ways to flesh out the last proposed episode, a live broadcast, into a way to tell the whole story. Britain's TV companies had long produced serious plays as one-off specials, the equivalent of a made-for-TV movie in the US, quite often made in a multi-camera studio. As serious drama and plays began moving towards being shot more often than not on film, you can see how audiences of the day bought this as a reality TV program. Instead of being made in one studio session, it was produced like a film, often mounted as a single-camera drama by director Lesley Manning. 1 month of shooting in the house was followed by more sessions at Elstree Studios recording the studio-bound settings featuring Parkinson and Dr. Pascoe, played by actress Gillian Bevan. Yes, most of the cast are indeed actors. I did go into this knowing a bit of the backstory and the furore that was caused, both real and hyped. The first hour is pretty lame. It does set up a lot and gives you a false sense of security. But gradually, particularly with the flashes of Mr. Pipes throughout, you can't help but get goosebumps. This is not a slasher film, there's only a tiny little bit of blood, and of course,
no one died.
Like a lot of found footage style horror movies, it leaves the ending up in the air, like my local cinema's print of Around the World in 80 Days, but the one where they lost the last reel. It can feel a little forced at the start, but by the end I was really getting into it. The jump scares are a little tame, mostly just glimpses of Pipes that were not there when the same scene is replayed. Its slightly improvised dialogue with minor mistakes do make you think Parkinson was regretting his choices in life, when instead this whole program turned out really, really well. Ever since Orson Welles' infamous 1938 radio adaptation of War of the Worlds as if it was a news broadcast live from actual events, broadcasters have often shied away from using the format of a factual program to present entertainment, where they didn't need to sell supplements or energy drinks to pay their way. It's apparently too easy for people who don't pay much attention, or worse, only pay attention to the 5% of a program that makes their brain worms rebel against reality to make them go batshit insane, which is an actual psychiatric term. Or at least it's there on page 45 of my 1954 Psychiatry for Kids annual, before of course that was banned. It's long been established that a lot of viewers cannot discern that an actor who plays a surgeon on a soap opera is almost certainly not an actual surgeon, and that the only thing that they may be qualified to operate on is your thirsty Aunt Francine. Britain did have a long tradition of making horror for TV. The BBC would often preface scary television with warnings such as this.
We should also warn our viewers of a nervous disposition that the things on this tape that they might find a little bit distressing.
Partly to help with the drama, but also as a disclaimer for the nutjobs. They also made a lot of weird Twilight Zone-y sorts of shows, but gave them names like Thriller, or Chiller, or Scylla. And if you were really, really unlucky, you ended up watching a show called Tales of the Unexpected. I only ever saw one episode, but I utterly detest that show. God damn it, I knew the hitchhiker would steal the car.
It's moved.
It's in the wardrobe.
None of the main cast were working journalists at the time, but many were presenters or actors on television and radio in the UK. Michael Parkinson was a very well-known and respected talk show host in Britain for decades. TV and radio presenters Sarah Greene and Mike Smith were once in a plane crash and were later married for a time. Craig Charles started off as a poet and was at the time the star of the science fiction comedy Red Dwarf.
Michael, Dr. Pascoe, there are incredible noises coming from the walls and from the ceiling.
But no, it's totally legit, says a man who thinks the outcome of professional wrestling is in any way down to who was the best wrestler on the day. How dare they make a drama using the visual language of reality television, etc. and so on.
So I can understand that you feel upset because you've been duped.
I'd be the first to admit it if it was absolutely sure I had been duped.
Some people took it too far, others were indeed affected. But a lot of folks just seem annoyed that they had been sucked in. Other attempts to do something similar haven't been as widely panned, mainly because fewer people were fooled. But for the ones who are susceptible to things like this, man, don't make eye contact. A few years later, the Blair Witch Project would make the found footage thriller or horror movie fashionable, and it has since become a staple of the horror genre. And of course on TV you can't move for cable channels that were once the home of documentary series filled with people investigating supernatural phenomenon like ghosts or aliens or alien ghosts.
So, do you believe there is such a thing as, I don't know, an evil place?
Ghostwatch, now long since divorced from the program's initial hostile reception, is a spooky Halloween night watch, even if you're not normally into horror films.
Well, it frightened me to buggery, it did.
Even when you're in on the gag, it's a cool and engaging thriller. Spooky, where its early, shall we say, naffness is a red herring for the pants-browning moments towards the end. I've just got a quote from the dry cleaner, and I think I'll just burn these and get a new pair of pants. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.